Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about positivity, positive vibes here on the show, and with me right now I've got a very special guest. He's worked in a wide variety of wrestling promotions over the years. WWE, the UWF, Universal Wrestling Federation, worked in Japan, and so many different places around the world. Pleased to welcome the one, the only, Rick Allen, a.k.a. Sunny Beach. Rick, welcome to Wrestling with Heart.
Stanley. I appreciate it. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's talk about your childhood. Where are you from?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois, in Berwyn, Illinois, in 1963. And when in 1972, I moved to Jacksonville, Florida. And I grew up in Florida. I went to Terry Parker High School. I was all city, all state wrestling my senior year. Had all kinds of football scholarships, but my heart was set on pro wrestling. So championship wrestling from Florida. I grew up with Dusty Rhodes, the Briscoe brothers, Mike Graham, Steve Kern, Stan Hansen, all the big monster heels down in Florida, Ox Baker and the Assassins, and you name it. I was watching it. The Great Malenko, some of the old timers, Buddy Colt. So, Kevin Sullivan, Bob Roop. So, I got hooked at a very young age. I grew out of cartoons and right into wrestling. So,
Oh, man. Did you gravitate more towards the heels or more so the baby faces?
it was a mix. It depended on what type of, program the guys were running or, what kind of angles they were shooting on TV. I was deathly afraid of Kevin Sullivan and, Bob Roop and them when they were doing that occult gimmick and stuff with Mark Lewin and everybody. But then, like Abdul the Butcher, I got to wrestle him a few times and, and I told him, when I wrestled him, and I said, when I was a kid, you scared the crap out of me,
He's big.
before I
He
was
was huge.
smartened up in the business. So it was a pretty good time, to be wrestling back in the mid '80s. And I actually went to high school with a girl named Lisa Curtis, and her father was Don Curtis, promoter, pro wrestler. He was WWF champion years ago when Mark Lewin. He promoted North Florida and a lot of stuff for the Grams and stuff. And then he went on his own and started Sunbelt Wrestling with the Malenkos. And I used to set up the rings years and years ago, breaking into the business. Back then, early 80s, you had to pay your dues and you had to, set the rings up, tear the rings down, drive the guys back and forth, carry their bags. You had to put your time in if you wanted to break into the business. And I didn't have any family in the business, so I had to do it the hard way.
Yeah, it was grunt work essentially because you had to learn, different aspects of it before you actually got to get in the ring.
It was a very closed society. It was not, kayfabe was really strong back in the early 80s and you protected the business. And that's the way I was learned and brought up, that way. And, we didn't have too many outsiders. We didn't have anybody in the dressing room or anything else back then. Now they have all these meet and greets and there's marks running around all over the place. And wrestling has really changed since, I broke into the business.
You growing up watching all these guys in the late 70s, early 80s. I'd imagine when you first started training, I bet it was really brutal, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you would go to the gym, you would lift weights for 2, 3 hours a day, then you would run, a couple miles a day, and then you would put your time in the ring and hone your craft, learn the moves, learn the psychology. I had some great trainers. A guy, Mike Thor, helped break me into business. Don Curtis helped a little bit. And just it was like I was working a lot of independents around Florida, Georgia, Alabama, just I would drive hundreds of miles just to get a match in. And, maybe I would make 20, 30, $40. I would drive down to Valdosta, Georgia. They would do TV there. I hooked up with the Samoans there because they were living in Pensacola at the time. So I started, traveling with those guys and going, all over the South with those guys and on the tours. Mike Jones, Virgil, he was breaking into business about the same time I was, and he was called the Terminator back then. Lou Fabiano, he was one of the Scorpions under a hood. Tonga Kid, even Rodney, the great Kokina, who's better known as Yokozuna. I wrestled him when he was like 15 years old in
Mm.
Valdosta, Georgia. So, I mean, I got to wrestle some of the big major stars, before they were stars, coming up the ladder.
Yeah, I mean, Yokozuna, definitely one of the greats of all time. As is Virgil. Both guys are going to be missed. Still are missed to this day.
Even Alpha and Sika, they took a liking to me, and when Alpha started working a lot in Pennsylvania and stuff, I used to get on a lot of the shows, and we'd be on the same shows with IWA with Rob Russin, and we were on a couple of overseas tours together when we went to Pakistan and India, and it was just a pleasure to, be around these veterans, and, you would learn so much. And I was the guy that would be quiet and listen to what they were telling, and, not, you never really speak until you're spoken to, and you always go in the locker room and shake everybody's hand and tell them hello and, good night and thank you for the match and everything else. And, thank God I was brought up the right way. A lot of people nowadays that are brought into the business, they don't have the same respect for the business or the guys that paved the way for them.
Hmm. Why do you think it's changed so much, in your opinion?
I think overexposure on TV. I think no more kayfabe. I think sports entertainment, and they pulled back the curtain a little bit, and you could see the great Oz, pulling all the strings now. So I think it's just changed a lot, and I think a lot of people sold out for money and the merchandise, and you know, um, Jesse Ventura wasn't that wrong about trying to form a union and get some protection and coverage for the boys and stuff. I mean, I think that would have happened, I think the wrestling business would have definitely changed, and I hope that there wouldn't be so many deaths in the business. With the drugs, the alcohol, um, people taking their own lives. That's the sad part about the business. A lot of guys make a lot of money real quick, and then they don't think about saving for a rainy day or the retirement, or they get hurt so bad that they get addicted to drugs, alcohol, and it's just a long road to recover from, and sometimes guys don't even recover from that.
Yeah, I mean, it is not ballet by any stretch of the imagination. It is very hard. You put a lot of work out there into your craft. And when you're training and putting your reps in, do you remember any kind of words of wisdom that your trainers had mentioned to you that you still can recall today?
Well, Johnny Walker, Mr. Wrestler number 2, he told me when I was coming up the ladder, I was wrestling in Peach State in Georgia for Peach State Wrestling for a promoter, Ben Masters. And then I would wrestle for Jerry Blackwell at Southern Championship Wrestling. And they had a big TV show up there in Atlanta, and we were all over the country with that. But Johnny Walker once told me, he goes, "You're going to meet a lot of people in this business." He goes, "But when you retire, if you have a handful of good friends that you keep in touch with, out of everybody you meet along the way, many, years up and down the road together, and, sharing cars and hotels and, putting your time in the ring and working programs with people." He goes, "Then you had a good career. And then Nikolai Volkov told me, "It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep."
Hmm.
So those were two really good words of wisdom, that I think about both those guys often, and I think about some of the great words they told me. And the same thing, like Stan Hansen. I was in the movie No Holds Barred with him, and I got to, Stan Hansen was the first person to take me to a sushi restaurant, and being from Jacksonville, Florida, I didn't really eat too much sushi. We were barbecue and all that good stuff, Southern cooking, but he took a liking to me, and we're still friends today. Whenever he comes to New York, he comes stays at my house, and our wives get together. We have a great time together, and we do a lot of autograph shows together and signings, and it's a really good thing. And I got a lot more than 5 friends in the wrestling business, so I had a very good career. I never had a problem with anybody. I've always got along with everybody, and I did what I was told, the promoter or the booker, whatever they would ask me to do. I just, I was a company guy. So, I would do whatever I was asked. They called us enhanced talent or,
Enhancement talent.
jobbers or whatever you want to call them, enhancement talent. But I wrestled every big name, from Andre the Giant, Alex Baker, Kamala, King Kong Bundy. I mean, I won some, I lost some. I got to go to Japan. I wrestled some of the best wrestlers in the world. I wrestled Dynamite Kid's last match in Japan and stuff, me and Johnny Ace. So, I mean, I got a lot of great accomplishments, and, I probably wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, I mean, definitely lived the life of a rock star, getting to work all those cities and towns and getting to meet so many
Oh,
fans.
the travel just alone, I got to travel the whole world and I didn't have to pay for, plane tickets or hotel rooms, and but starting out, you got to pay your dues and you drive from town to town. And sometimes I slept in my car, like when I would drive from Jacksonville, Florida to do TV tapings in Tampa, Championship Wrestling from Florida. It was like a 4 to 5 hour drive from Jacksonville to Tampa. And I didn't have much money. I was breaking in 21 years old and I was just, hired to do TV tapings or put people over. So and once in a while they'd throw me a bone and give me a match, or I'd be in a battle royal or something, to just, they go, oh, the kid works hard, throw him a bone or give him a match, or, let him be open and match or whatever. But that's the way, you got to do it so you could gain momentum and, get your name out there.
Yeah, you have to. Who have been some of your favorite opponents that you got to work with over the years?
Mick Foley's one of the, we had a big feud up and down the East Coast for a while, and I worked with him a lot in UWF and the independents up here in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. So we got to go up and down the coast, and I probably wrestled him over 100 times. And, we both won, lost, back and forth. We were in all the wrestling magazines from like probably 1988 to about 2003 or four, doing our thing. King Kong Bundy was always fun to work with. Um, Cowboy Scott Casey was a good guy to work with. Lanny Poffo, um, Brian Pillman when I was up in Stampede Wrestling, Calgary, wrestled with him. Chris Benoit in Japan. It was the Bulldogs were there a lot. I had great matches with Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Terry Gordy. Me and Johnny Ace, we were in the tag tournament back in '91 against Andre the Giant and Giant Baba. Stan Hansen and Danny Spivey. They were a big tag team. The Bulldogs, uh, Gordy and Williams, Dory Funk Jr. was over there, and the Destroyer, Dick Beyer was there. So I mean, I got to really work with the cream of the crop of professional wrestling from
Yeah.
Kevin Sullivan. That was another guy that I had great matches with. God rest him. He was a good friend of mine too, and he's going to be sadly missed.
Yes. Another guy that we lost recently, the Taskmaster.
Yes,
Hmm.
he was a great guy.
You had mentioned a little bit ago that you were in the movie No Holds Barred. Hulk Hogan was in that movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
What
You
was it
fought
like?
too.
Yeah. What was
How
it
do you
like? What was it like being a part of that production?
It was great. I mean, I at first I didn't know. They called me up, and I was living in Jacksonville, Florida, and I guess they saw me on TV up for Southern Championship Wrestling, and they wanted a couple of guys that nobody really knew, and I was pretty big at the time. I was about 280 pounds, blonde hair, all tanned up, and they put me with a lumberjack named Joe LeDuc,
Mm.
and me and Freight Train Joe LeDuc. My uh, character in the movie was the short headbanger, and he was the tall headbanger, and I was probably about a foot taller than Joe. So it was pretty funny how they did that. But we had the first fight scene in the Octagon Bar, and then it's called a No Count Bar, and we were beating the crap out of each other for about 5 minutes in the ring, and then he finally throws me up over a table. I land on a table, and then uh, fall on the floor in the bar, and then all the kinds of like dust flies up and stuff. But it was done pretty good, like about a 3 minute fight scene in the movie, and it was like the plot point in the movie to set the tone of the movie. So after that, after the movie was over, um, they hired me full time with the WWF at the time. And I got to go on tour with them. And back then, WWF was running 3 towns a night. So they would have the A team, B team, and C team. And they had me on the B team just to, start out. And then sometimes I would be on the C team. And then sometimes the A team was like the Hogan or the Andre the Giant or the Macho Man cards, they would stack the cards, with Demolition or Ultimate Warrior or the Rockers. And Kurt Hennig, and it was just like a stack card with all we'd have like 7 matches a night, and we were on the road maybe probably 14 days on, 3 days off, 10 days on, 2 days off. So you were wrestling probably 24 to 26 times a month.
Mm.
It was like a real hectic schedule,
Yeah.
living out of a suitcase and traveling the world, living the dream.
Yeah, it's definitely very grueling when you're constantly on that grind. And when you're working overseas, I know there's a lot of differences. Like when you
Oh
were
yeah.
in Japan, I know for sure that there were a lot of differences.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're traveling. Like when I went to Japan, I was living in New York. I met my wife when I was wrestling with the WWF here, and we had a place in Brooklyn, New York, where we were living. And when I would fly out of Kennedy Airport to go in international travel, like we would fly into say Dallas, Fort Worth, or whatever, then we'd go from Kennedy to Dallas, from Dallas to L.A., then from L.A. to Japan. So that was just like 18 hours of, nonstop travel in just one way. And then you get over there and it's like maybe 4 o'clock in the morning and you haven't slept on the plane, or you slept maybe an hour and it's broken sleep, and people are on the plane, there's kids crying, and the guys are on the plane and they're trying to shave your eyebrows or rib you, or some of the guys, they would get on the plane and just start drinking, and then they'd pass out, or they would take like a halcyon or something to make themselves sleep, and it was just crazy, and I didn't do any of that stuff, so I was pretty straight and narrow. And but it takes its toll on you, because the lifestyle, when you get there, you had like press, you have to meet the press and do interviews and stuff, or you'd have to take pictures for the promotion and stuff. So I mean, they would have you working from the minute you got there to the minute you left. They
Mm.
always had something for you to do.
Yeah. And the crowds, I'd imagine, are different from the crowds in the US as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, Japan is probably one of my favorite places to wrestle in. Budokan Hall was really nice. Um, Korakuen Hall, where we would do TVs at and stuff. All the old sumo arenas and stuff. Osaka was great. So we would go over there and we'd be there like 3 weeks at a time for our tours. The first time I went over was the 19. It was like from Thanksgiving to about the middle of December. It was called the World Tag League Championships, and they teamed me up with Johnny Ace over there, and he was well over in Japan at the time. So we had a really good team over there. We complimented each other a lot with our tag team. And then the second time I went over, myself and Del Wilkes, a Patriot, we tagged a lot together, and I worked a lot of singles matches against a lot of the Japanese boys and stuff. So, and they put me over a lot. I got to work over there, and I mean, I really got to shine, and they put me over. So, I mean, I love Japan, and the people really appreciate you if you work hard and you give them a good match, and they know when you're slacking up or working hard. And, in this style, I mean, I love the style over there because you would lay everything in. It was more, like full speed. It wasn't like like over here, where everything was a little bit more slower, or, toned down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something you have to get used to over a period
Oh,
of time.
exactly. I mean, Abdul the Butcher was there. I mean, Andre the Giant, Stan Hansen, Dan Spivey. I mean, Steve Wood, Dr. Death Williams, Terry Gordy, British Bulldog. I mean, it was like it was the A list, the who's who of professional wrestling was there. So
Yeah.
Dory Funk Jr., Al Perez. I mean, we got the Young Bloods were there, the Renegade Warriors. I'm trying to think who else was there when I was there. The Fantastics. Um, the list goes on and on. The great teams that were there that I got to work with, and I really appreciate my time in Japan. That was one of the best times of my life, to be honest. I got to travel the world. I got to go all over Japan. I met some great people. I still got friends today in Japan that we were on Facebook and we talk together and stuff. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's always good as that camaraderie in wrestling. No matter where you are, no matter where you go, you get to meet people from different parts of the world, and it's great to still keep in touch, with those connections.
oh yeah, like I'm great friends with the Conquistadors, Jose Luis Rivera and Jose Estrada. Barry Horowitz is a good friend of mine. Stan Hansen is a great friend of mine. Tony Atlas. So I mean, I got a ton of great people. Ray Lloyd
Yeah.
Glacier, I helped break him in the wrestling business. I helped him get an extra part and no holds barred. So there's a lot of people that I keep in touch with that are very good friends of mine.
Yeah. Let's switch gears and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of wrestling. I know you've done a lot of charity work and things to help
Right.
out in your community. Tell me about some of the stuff that you've done to help out over the years in your community.
Well, my community where I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, my neighborhood kind of changed. It went from being like almost probably like 95% white in my neighborhood, and the demographics changed a lot. And we have a lot of I guess the black people kind of moved into our neighborhood. And the old high school I went to is predominantly like 75% black now. But I got a call from the football coach about 12 years ago, and they said that they didn't have enough helmets. The kids were sharing helmets. They didn't have enough uniforms for the football team. So I called up a lot of my high school friends that I played football with and stuff. And I'm kind of like the mayor down there, even though I live in New York. Everybody, I keep in touch with a lot of people. So I put together my old high school buddies and stuff, and we raised $35,000 for the football team that year. We helped pay for their team meals. We got them all new shoulder pads, uniforms, helmets. Did a lot of good stuff for the community. And we started a charitable 501c corporation called the Terry Parker Alumni Fund. And to
Mm,
this day, it's still going strong. To this day, we raised over $800,000 for the high school athletic program.
it's amazing,
So
not every
president of that for all these years. So I'm very proud of all the charitable work we've done in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, I mean, when you have people that are not able to have, get their own equipment or get certain parts of equipment replaced,
It's
it's
hard.
it's tough.
See, the demographics have changed down there. And back when I played football and stuff, we had our parents and we had a booster club and we had people that, we would do fundraisers. We would sell Krispy Kreme donuts on the, weekends, or we would wash cars, and we would raise money for our own uniforms. And at the end of the year, we got to keep our jerseys and stuff. And the next year they would buy their own new jerseys. And plus the Duval County School Board, they used to allocate, X amount of funds for the athletic programs and stuff. Now down there, they have budget cuts and everything else. And they don't really do a lot of stuff. And one of the most proud things I am with the Terry Parker Alumni Fund, I found out that the wrestling team, they were still using the same wrestling mat that I used when I went to Terry Parker High School back in the early 1980s, 81, 82, and 83. So one of the first things I did when we had a little bit extra money in our coffers is we bought him a brand new wrestling mat for the high school. And
Mm.
that was one of my more proud achievements, with the alumni fund. I mean, I helped out everything with football, basketball, new uniforms, cheerleaders, Letterman jackets, team meals for all their, team meals when they would go out for 70, the coaches and the players. They would have like 50, 60 players on the team, and they would have like 10 coaches. So we would make sure that everybody would eat and um, be taken care of. So
Yeah.
we're still doing that stuff. And some other charities that I've been involved with. There was a group up here in New York. Freddie Blassie got me involved in it, called the Community Mayors in New York. And I was a mayor of Williamsburg when I lived in Brooklyn. There was a man named Dominic Del Rocca. He was in charge of the charity. And we used to do every year, we would do a wrestling match at Madison Square Garden. Vince McMahon and Linda McMahon were community mayors. And they would put on a charity show for the kids and stuff. And they would bus kids from all over the five boroughs to come see a wrestling show at Madison Square Garden, a matinee show. And we would all wrestle there and put on shows, sign autographs, all that good stuff. And we did a lot of stuff like at Astroland and Nellie Bly's. It's an amusement park in Brooklyn. We would take handicapped children there and put them on the rides, and just do a lot of good stuff for the communities up here. Another thing I was involved with, I was vice president of Long Island Children's Fund, where we would get like handicapped accessible vans. We would raise money for that stuff, or put in handicap ramps at people's houses, or handicap bathrooms. So we would get a lot of local businessmen together and do stuff like that. So I've been very fortunate, and I try to give back to the community. I try to pay it forward, and just try to do good things. I want to treat everybody the way I want to be treated. And, God put me on this earth to, I guess wrestle and try to help other people. So that's what I try to do and just live the best life.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, especially when people are just, you never know what somebody's going through, or people are just not able to afford certain things. And to you, Rick, what is it about giving back that gives you the most joy?
Just to see people smile or help alleviate some of the problems just for a little bit. You never know what somebody, like you said, is going through. They maybe had a death in the family, they maybe lost their job, maybe they're living paycheck to paycheck, maybe they don't have any food on their table. So I give to we have a place up here called the Harry Chafin Food Pantry, and I try to give back every, like, Thanksgiving. I buy a bunch of turkeys and give out to the food pantry so they could give out to the community. Um, Christmas time, a bank that I used to deal with, Capital One Bank, they used to have stockings, and you used to take, like, we would get a stocking, and there was a wish list for a kid that wanted a toy or something. So I can't tell you how many bicycles I bought for kids over the years, and some kids want jackets. It's just little things, that to stay warm, a jacket, a pair of gloves, a winter hat, a Barbie doll for a little girl, a GI Joe or something, a video game. At the last hour, I went in there one year and there was still like maybe 10, wishes that weren't granted. So I took them all, me and my wife, and we went to Target and we started buying stuff. And, you know, I use my own money. I don't, ask people for donations or anything like that. And if I've been blessed, I have my own security guard company I've had for 25 years. When I got out of wrestling, I had to do something with my life because I was probably 30. I want to say I was like 34, 35 years old. And, the lifetime, of a wrestler, you have a very short career. Some guys get hurt, some guys, wheelchair bound, some guys, neck injuries or paralyzed. So, I mean, I've already had a knee replacement. I've had a rotator cuff surgery. I tore my pec. I tore my bicep. I tore my Achilles tendon. Um, I had my gallbladder removed. So um, I've probably had about 15 surgeries throughout the years. 5 years ago, I had a quadruple bypass surgery. I had a heart attack, and I'm blessed every day to be here now. God gave me a second chance, so I want to make the most of my life and be here for my family and friends and my grandchildren.
Yeah, I mean, 15 surgeries, I mean, that is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's a lot, when you're in there, your body just takes so much punishment. And
Well,
I think that it's great to see, you know, people that have made that transition from wrestling to doing something that they love to do. And it seems like you're very passionate about that.
oh yeah, I have a security training school. I have a lot of great clients that I do business with out here in Long Island. I do a lot of high schools and stuff like that. They have school security, so we renew their security licenses. All the guards in New York State have to be state certified, and they have to take courses like an 8 hour pre-assignment class, 16 hour on the job training class, and then every year, calendar year after, they have to take an 8 hour annual in service class. So I've had my security training school for 8 years now in Nassau County in Levittown, Long Island. It's called BSI Security Training. I just finished up a 3-day course where they do the 8 hour annual and the 16 hour on the job trainings for the Queens Library. So I go on location at different libraries throughout Queens, New York, probably 4 to 6 times a year. And I teach people how to become a security guard. We help get them licensed. And the library, they get funded for different programs to find jobs and job placements for people. So I do that like 6 times a year with them. I also do like MTA, Metropolitan Transit Authority. They have their own security department. I taught security training over there for 6 years to the classes. I go to Iona College. I go to a lot of high schools here on Long Island and train guards. So, and then I train regular classes for people, off the street or security guard companies. So it's very rewarding to me. Plus, I own my own security company called American Protection Bureau, where we do a lot of nightclubs, restaurants, lounges, gated communities, concerts. We just did the World Cup cricket tournament up here in Long Island, New York, where I had 50 guards a day there. So it's very rewarding. You get to work with a lot of celebrities, a lot of cool people. You get to meet a lot of nice people, and you get to see a lot of cool stuff, concerts. And we did a PGA tour at Bethpage Black one year where I had 75 guards. We did the hospitality tents. We did access control. So, I knew that I had to, feed my family, and security just seemed to be like a natural. When I was on wrestling and on the road, I got to, meet a lot of celebrities and stars and movie stars. And when I first moved to New York, I was doing bodyguard work. I was doing movie sets. So it kind of just fell into my lap, and I just took it to the next level.
Definitely seems like you've met a lot of people,
Oh
over
yeah.
the course of your careers, both in wrestling and working in security. Anybody in particular you enjoyed meeting the most?
Well, I did a movie set with Drew Barrymore, and she was really cool. And I would walk her to and from her trailer between scenes and stuff. And she was really cool. Pamela Anderson, I bodyguarded her a couple times. Tupac when he was alive. I did some stuff with him. I did a movie set for Do the Right Thing with Samuel Jackson, Rosie Perez, Spike Lee. So I've done a lot of major, celebrities. Mark Gastineau from the New York Jets is one of my, good friends, one of my best friends up here in New York. We hang out a lot together, go to the Jet games together. So I mean, it's I got to meet a lot of celebrities, music people throughout the years. I'm very good friends with the guys from 38 Special and some of the guys from Molly Hatchet. Danny Joe Brown used to live around the corner from me in Jacksonville, Florida. They sang that big song "Flirting with Disaster." So all the original band members have passed away since. But I got some great memories, and I've got to meet a lot of really cool people, and got to do a lot of cool things in my life. If I die tomorrow, I've lived a good life.
Definitely seems like you have. Rick, I just want to say this has been great to speak with you. I want to say thank you for coming on to the podcast, to the show. It
My
means a lot to
pleasure. I
me.
enjoy.
Yeah, it means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find more about you on social media or any way they
Uh,
can reach you?
Maybe Rick Allen or Sunny Beach. I'm on Facebook as Rick Allen or Sunny Beach. I have two different things on there. My company is American Protection Bureau, APB Security. I'm on that and Facebook and Instagram, stuff like that. I'm still learning the social media stuff and all that internet stuff. I'm not really that's not my specialty or anything, but I'm
Yeah,
at a little bit. And, I do a lot of like, if it's in the Long Island area or New York City, I did wrestling, 80s WrestleCon last year for Tommy Fierro, myself, Stan Hansen. We did that show together. I'm kind of semi-retired, but I'm still working. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy teaching, giving back to the community, and what you put into this world is what you're going to get out of it.
I love to hear that. Rick, thanks again, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Well, thank you so much, Stanley. You have a great evening, and thank you for having me.
All right. Take care.
All right, have a nice day. Bye bye.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.